Have you ever felt alone, even when surrounded by people? As if you were missing someone to share a comfortable silence or a good laugh with. In the maturity of life, when children take their own paths, and longtime friends sometimes drift apart due to time or distance, a space remains. A space that only true affection can fill. But here's some good news. It's never too late to rebuild or strengthen your circle of affection. Yes, it's possible to cultivate new friendships, reinforce old bonds, and create a support network that embraces you on good days, and especially on the difficult ones. In this video, you'll discover 10 practical and emotional strategies to strengthen your connections and live with more lightness, companionship, and meaning. A journey of reconnecting with others and with yourself. Shall we go together? Because living well is living with affection. The importance of vulnerability. Have you ever noticed how over time we build a kind of invisible armor? Maybe it formed after so many losses, disappointments, misunderstandings. In many cases, that armor served to protect the heart, but as the years pass, it also distances us. It makes us smile when we're sad, pretend everything is fine when there's a silent ache in our chest. It's as if, by trying to appear strong all the time, we gradually drift away from others and even from ourselves. But here's something no one may have told you clearly. True strength lies precisely in being vulnerable. Being vulnerable isn't weakness, it isn't surrender. It's actually an act of courage. It's when we make space for others to see us as we truly are, with our stories, our joys, and also our pains. And that's where trust is born. Imagine this scene. A 72-year-old woman, widowed just over a year ago, decides to return to the reading group at the park. She stays quiet for the first few weeks, barely participating. Then one day, after hearing a poem about longing, she takes a deep breath and says, "You know, I thought after my husband passed, I'd know how to handle loneliness. But the truth is, some days only silence answers, and it's hard." It was as if those words opened an invisible door. Other women in the group felt permission to share their own sorrows, their own losses. There, in that simple reading circle, something precious was born, true connection. And it only happened because someone had the courage to speak their truth. Vulnerability builds bonds. It disarms defenses and shows others they're not alone. When we're honest about what we're experiencing, without exaggeration, without drama, just with truth, we give others permission to be honest with us too. And that's the soil where affection grows out, of course. Not everyone is trustworthy. Not everyone deserves to know our most intimate parts. That's why vulnerability must be cultivated wisely. This isn't about sharing everything with anyone, but choosing people who've already shown respect, listening, and care. Sometimes it can start with something small, saying you've been missing someone, or that you're nervous about a doctor's appointment, or that you long for something you can't even explain. That small gesture revealing an insecurity, a doubt, or a longing has a profound impact. It humanizes us. It brings us closer. It turns an acquaintance into someone you can share the journey with. Maybe you're thinking, "But I've lived so much already, why start now?" And I'll answer you gently. It's precisely because you've lived so much that you deserve truer, deeper, lighter relationships. At this stage of life, what matters most are the bonds that nourish us. And those bonds only grow stronger with truth. If you've never felt comfortable showing your true self, maybe it's because you've lacked a safe space until now. But you can start creating that space. How? By taking the first step. Today, choose someone you trust, a child, a friend, a neighbor, and share a small insecurity. It could be something simple. "I've been feeling forgotten. I've missed having someone to talk to." Or even, "Sometimes I'm afraid of the future." Don't underestimate the power of those words. They're seeds. And when they fall on fertile ground, bonds take root and last. Being vulnerable is a gift you give yourself and also offer to others. And maybe, by allowing yourself to feel and share, you'll discover there's far more support around you than you imagined. It was just hidden, waiting for the chance to reveal itself. Listening with presence. There's a huge difference between hearing and truly listening. Hearing is perceiving sound, registering words, but listening with presence. Now that's an art. It's a gift. And perhaps in today's world, with all its rush, noise, and beeping devices, listening with presence is one of the rarest and most powerful ways to show affection. Especially in later years, it's common to feel like our voices aren't heard as much anymore. How many times have you tried to share something, only for the person in front of you to seem distracted, checking their phone, changing the subject, not really caring? That hurts. It makes us withdraw. But here's an important secret. If we want to be heard, we also need to relearn how to listen. Listening with presence is more than paying attention. It's welcoming the other person with an open heart. It's letting time slow down. It's not thinking of your response while the other person is still speaking. It's offering silence, yes, but the kind filled with respect, attentiveness, and patience. I remember a man named Osvaldo, 81 years old, who reunited with an old army friend after decades. They sat on a park bench and started talking. Osvaldo later told me that day he simply listened. His friend spoke about his grandchildren, missing his late wife, and his health struggles. And Osvaldo, instead of trying to fix things or change the subject, just said, "Tell me more. I'm here." And so they stayed for nearly 2 hours. The next week, his friend called and said, "Thank you, Osvaldo. It's been a long time since I felt so heard." And Osvaldo, with tears in his eyes, told me, "I didn't do anything special. I just sat there quietly, listening with my heart. And you know what? That nothing special is worth more than any advice. Listening with presence builds bridges. It restores trust, intimacy, and a sense of belonging. It doesn't require physical effort or grand words. It just asks you to be there fully, body and soul. You can start right now. The next time you talk to someone, whether it's a child, a grandchild, or a neighbor, try to be completely present in that conversation. Look them in the eyes. Breathe slowly. Don't interrupt. Ask sincere questions, not to fill the silence, but to show you care. And if you feel like the people around you don't know how to do this for you, lead by example. Because listening with presence is contagious. Those who experience being truly heard almost always learn to listen better too. Over time, these small changes create stronger, more vibrant bonds. And they remind us of a deep truth. Sometimes, what we need most isn't answers, advice, or solutions. It's just someone who listens with their heart, expressing gratitude regularly. Gratitude is one of the gentlest, yet most transformative forces in the world. And curiously, it's also one of the most forgotten in our daily lives. Sometimes we go through good moments and barely notice. Sometimes someone helps us, comforts us, listens to us, and we stay silent, saving our thank you for later. But the truth is, gratitude doesn't need grand gestures or eloquent speeches. It just needs to be sincere. In the maturity of life, we learn the value of small things. An unexpected visit, a morning smile, a shared cup of coffee in silence. But have we been saying this out loud? Have we been showing people how grateful we are? Or do we wait for special occasions to express what could be said every day? Expressing gratitude is a way of affirming life, of acknowledging that, despite losses, there's still so much worth holding on to. Gratitude doesn't erase pain or fill what's missing, but it illuminates what remains. And when we start seeing more clearly what we still have, health, memories, love, history, the way we live changes, the soul settles. The heart opens. Think, for example, of that neighbor who always asks if you need anything, or that grandchild who sends you messages, even if they're short. Have you thanked them? Not hurriedly, not out of politeness, but with presence? A thank you with eye contact, a little note left at the gate, a call just to say, "You made my day better." That kind of gratitude takes root. It strengthens bonds. And more than that, it transforms both the giver and the receiver. Remember Donna Maria, 77 years old, who started practicing a gratitude journal. Every night before bed, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. At first, it was hard. She'd write, "The food was good, the weather was nice." But over time, she began to see more deeply. She wrote, "I got a call from my sister after months. I smelled my husband's perfume when opening an old drawer. I smiled remembering my grandson's silly joke." Gratitude, when practiced intentionally, sharpens our vision. It dusts off the routine. It helps us remember that even on dark days, there's still light slipping through some cracked dot. And if you're thinking, "But I have no one to thank, I'm very alone," I'll tell you gently, start by thanking yourself. For the times you found the courage to keep going, for the mornings you got up even when you didn't want to, for not giving up on being who you are. Gratitude is also an act of self-love. Now, a practical invitation. Choose one person today, a family member, an old friend, even a pharmacy clerk, and say something sincere. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be, "I'm happy when you call me," or "Thank you for always listening." Sometimes, a phrase like that has the power to change someone's day. And in the process, it changes yours too. Gratitude is like a bridge. It brings hearts closer, creates tenderness, awakens memories. And when practiced consistently, it becomes a habit. A habit that, in the end, helps us live with more lightness, more presence, and more love. Quality time matters more than quantity. We often cling to the idea that true love is measured by how much time we spend with someone. We think connection only exists in constant togetherness, long conversations, frequent visits, uninterrupted presence. But the truth is, the quality of shared moments often speaks louder than their duration. And with time, this realization becomes even more valuable. In later years, it's common for time with children, grandchildren, or longtime friends to dwindle. Everyone has their own path, routines, and commitments. This can leave a feeling of abandonment or distance. But are we looking at it the right way? Instead of counting hours, shouldn't we be measuring the depth of our encounters? A 10-minute conversation, when there's true presence, active listening, and affection, can be worth more than hours spent with someone distracted, rushed, or absent. A quick coffee, with genuine laughter and eye contact, can warm the heart for days. This is where wisdom comes in, recognizing and valuing quality time, the kind that nourishes, even when brief. Take, for example, a grandchild who can only visit on Sundays for an hour or 2. It might seem too little, but if in that time they put away their phone, listen attentively, hug you warmly, and laugh at your old stories, then that's a bond being carefully nurtured. What builds lasting relationships isn't the frequency of meetings, but the depth of what's shared within them. I remember a woman named Lucia who lived alone after her husband passed away. She often missed daily companionship until she decided to transform what she had. Every Friday afternoon, she prepared a special tea and invited just one person at a time. These weren't long visits, sometimes just an hour. But in that hour, there was attention, listening, and real connection. Slowly, she noticed her loneliness being replaced by true presence, even in small doses. Quality time also means being fully present in phone calls, messages, or short visits. When there's sincere intention, even brief moments become meaningful. And more importantly, when we cultivate quality time with others, we also learn to offer it to ourselves. Have you ever spent quality time with yourself? Sitting quietly with tea and your favorite music, flipping through a photo album slowly, writing a letter to someone from your past, even if you never send it. This kind of presence with yourself also strengthens your circle of affection. Because before you can be whole with others, you must be whole with you. So here's a practical suggestion. Don't mourn the time you lack. Invest in the time you have. Make every encounter, every conversation, an opportunity for real presence. And if you're the visitor, the phone call, the present friend, arrive with your heart, even if it's just for a little while. Gradually, you'll notice that even with fewer hours, there's more depth. And that building true bonds doesn't depend on the clock, but on intention. In the end, what matters isn't how much time was spent together, but how much of ourselves we left in that moment, reconnecting with old ties, courage, and lightness. Over the years, we collect many bonds, friendships from youth, distant relatives, neighbors who became like family, co-workers with whom we shared more than just tasks. But we also accumulate missed connections, sometimes because of words spoken in heated moments, other times because of silent pride, and in many cases simply because life led us down different paths. Time passed, and those ties loosened, yet deep down, some of those connections still live within us. Just hearing a name, flipping through an old photo, or passing a familiar place brings that person back to mind. And with them, the question, would there still be time to reconnect? The answer is yes, but it takes courage. And lightness. Courage. To look at the past without resentment. To accept that not everything went as we wished, but that there's still room to rebuild. And lightness, not demanding explanations or perfection from the other person. Just a possible fresh start within today's possibilities. I remember Benedito, an 83-year-old man who, after more than 20 years without speaking to his younger brother, decided to write a letter. He didn't explain all the reasons for their distance or reopen old wounds. He simply wrote, "Time has passed and I realize I miss you. If you'd like to talk, I'll be here." Days later, he received a short, emotional reply. They arranged a meeting. At first, they spoke little, but soon they laughed over childhood memories, shared stories about their father, and talked about their grandchildren. They left that reunion lighter, as if they'd set down a weight they hadn't realized they were carrying. Reconnecting old ties isn't about returning to the past as it was. It's about finding, in the present, a new way to be together. And even if the other person isn't ready to reconnect, the simple act of trying is already liberating. It means you've chosen peace, that your maturity has overcome pride. But there's something important. This effort must come with an open heart, no demands. Responses won't always come quickly. They won't always be what you hoped for. But if there's sincerity, something shifts. Sometimes reconnecting isn't about restoring a friendship as it was, but simply clearing the emotional path that was once blocked. This applies even to bonds with those who are no longer here. Some carry guilt, resentment, or unresolved longing. Writing a letter, visiting a meaningful place, offering a sincere prayer, these can be symbolic ways to reconnect, bringing relief to the heart. Now, here's a practical invitation. Think of someone who was important to you but with whom you've lost touch. A sibling, an old friend, a distant cousin. Ask yourself, what still ties me to this story? Is it worth holding on to? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to take the first step. A simple message, a phone call, a short visit. Something like, "I thought of you the other day and wanted to see how you're doing." That's all. No pressure. No revisiting the past as a judge. Just the generosity of someone willing to open doors. Reconnecting old ties is one of the most beautiful things we can do for ourselves. And often for the other person too. Because deep down, almost everyone is waiting for someone to say, "There's still room for us." And that someone could be you. Asking for help without guilt. Asking for help. Two simple words, yet so loaded with resistance. Especially as we reach the later stages of life. Many of us grew up believing that being strong means handling everything alone, that relying on others is a sign of weakness. So we pile up silences, ignore our pains, and mask our struggles, even when everything inside us cries out for support. But here's a truth that needs to be said, with all the kindness it deserves. Asking for help is an act of courage. It's a gesture of humility and wisdom. Because no one, absolutely no one, should face life's challenges without support. And as time passes, mutual care becomes even more precious. The network of affection, the knowledge that we can count on someone and that they can count on us too. It's common among older adults to hear phrases like, "I don't want to be a burden," or "They have their own lives. I won't bother them." This comes from the generous heart of someone who has learned to give much, but forgot they also deserve to be cared for. This mindset isolates us. And isolation, little by little, turns into loneliness, silent sadness, unnecessary weight. Asking for help isn't a burden, it's a bridge. It's a chance to strengthen bonds, to let someone come closer and express their affection too. There's profound beauty in saying, "I need you," because it reveals trust. It reveals connection. And above all, it reveals our shared humanity. I remember Donna Antonia, 79 years old. She had a small fall at home and out of pride, didn't tell anyone. She spent days in pain, avoiding going out, until her granddaughter noticed something odd in the way she walked. When they finally saw a doctor, they discovered she had fractured her foot. I asked her why she hadn't said anything, and she replied, "Oh dear, I used to be so strong. I didn't want to worry anyone." I told her with all the tenderness in the world, "But strength, Donna Antonia, is different now. It's allowing yourself to be cared for." And that's what we must learn. There's a time to give and a time to receive. Both are dignified. Both are sacred. When we allow ourselves to ask for help, we also give others the chance to feel useful, to practice love, to be present. Often, it's our children and grandchildren who want to be there, but don't know how, or feel they don't have space. An honest request can be exactly what opens that door. And help isn't just for emergencies. Sometimes it's a ride to the doctor, company to sort out a bank issue, a trip to the store. A simple, "Can you come talk with me today?" Small gestures that transform everyday life. Here's a practical invitation. Think of something you've been struggling with alone. Something that might be wearing you down, even if you won't admit it. Choose someone you trust, someone with whom you share affection, respect, and history. Ask for help, clearly but without guilt. Say something like, "I know you're busy, but I'd like to ask you for something. It would make my day much easier." You'll be surprised by people's willingness when the request comes with sincerity and warmth. Remember, accepting help doesn't diminish you, it humanizes you. And it strengthens bonds, because the most beautiful connections aren't built only when we give, but also when we allow ourselves to receive, creating small rituals of connection. Life is made of rituals. Some we learn early: breakfast with buttered toast, bedtime prayers, calling a relative every Sunday afternoon. Simple, repeated gestures that create structure, that silently say, "You matter, I'm here." But as time passes, many of these rituals fade. Sometimes because life gets busy, sometimes because people change, or simply because we didn't realize their value. Yet it's precisely in this mature phase of life that small rituals become even more powerful. They give meaning to our days, they help combat loneliness, and more than that, they keep bonds alive. A ritual isn't a complicated ceremony. It only requires intention. It can be as simple as sending a good morning message to someone dear, making a special recipe for your grandchildren every month, waiting for them with that warm joy in your chest, lighting a candle each evening while listening to an old song and fondly remembering those who've touched your life. I remember Sue Anselmo, an 82-year-old widower who created a ritual with his daughter. Every Monday, without fail, at 8 p.m. They had tea together over video call, even living in different cities, even when tired. It was their time. They didn't discuss big things. Sometimes they just laughed or reminisced about her childhood. But that virtual tea became the most anticipated moment of their week. It was their ritual. And it sustained their connection across the distance, because what sustains affection isn't grand events, but small gestures repeated with love. And when you create a ritual with someone, you're saying, "You have a permanent place in my life." That brings security, comfort, continuity. There are also silent rituals, the ones no one sees, but that nourish us from within. Like visiting a loved one's grave every month with flowers and kind thoughts. Writing yourself a note when you're sad, as a reminder that you've faced harder days. Or listening to a specific song every morning to start the day in peace. These are all rituals. These are all acts of care. The beauty of rituals lies in their consistency. No matter how small, they anchor us. And when shared, they weave an invisible web of affection. The grandchild who always gets your special goodnight message will carry that memory forever. The friend who calls at the same time every week to check on you knows it's more than routine. It's love in the form of habit. Here's a practical invitation. Think of someone with whom you'd like to strengthen a bond. A child, a friend, a grandchild, or even yourself. Create a small ritual. A weekly call, bi-weekly coffee, a note left at the gate, exchanging photos by mail. Any gesture that says, "Here, time is ours. Here, affection is nurtured." In the end, it's these small rituals that stitch our days together and warm the heart. They remind us that even when the world seems to rush by, we can still pause, breathe, and be with someone, even if just for a few minutes, fully, truly, and with love. And now that you've made it this far, I want to extend one final invitation to you. Simple yet profound. If any words from this video touched your heart, if you thought of someone while listening, if you felt the urge to reconnect a bond, express gratitude, forgive, or simply say, "I care," then don't wait for the perfect moment. Create that moment. Today, pick up the phone. Write that letter. Schedule that coffee date. Say what needs to be said. Because life is made of these gestures, and each one of yours could be the spark that rekindles a dormant connection. And if this video spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you love. Post it in your family group chats. Send it to that friend who's grown a little distant. Let's spread this message together, because everyone needs a circle of affection. And sometimes it all starts with a video like this. Tell me in the comments, what's the most beautiful bond you've ever rebuilt? Or which one would you like to rebuild right now? Your story might inspire others. It might even heal someone. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and come be part of this community where affection, wisdom, and listening come together. Here, every story matters, including yours. See you in the next video with an open heart, as always.